my preaching mentor. I loved F.G. Sampson, Bill Jones. I loved the preaching of Jeremiah Wright. And then Mac King Carter. Well, I took some of Mac's lettuce. I took some cucumbers from Jeremiah, some tomatoes from Samson, and some onions from some of the other people. And I took their ingredients and then I made my own tossed salad.
We develop leaders. We generate change agents. We produce 80% of all Black doctors and dentists. We provide a sense of belonging, a celebration of our unique culture. We are the pipeline that produced many of America's Black first. And we are proud to be Louisville's only historically Black college and universities. Simmons College of Kentucky. We are Louisville's HBCU.
What is it you want to be remembered for? Think about that question. You don't have to come up with an answer right now, because most of the time, it's not about the answer. Most of the time, it's just about the asking and the action. Who do you want to be? What do you want to become? What is the legacy you want to leave behind? Remember, 100 years from now, most of us will be gone. And the only thing left will be the memories of the people we leave behind and the actions we took in our lives. So, which legacy do you want to leave behind? Will you be remembered as someone who chased their passion, who pursued their goals, who gave themselves to making the world we live in a better place, as someone who said, "It's not about me, it's about the legacy I will leave behind"?
First and foremost, I'm the husband of Barnetta Cosby, and we have 2 adult children and a granddaughter. If you could consider life or ministry as a boxing match, you box for 3 rounds, then you come back to your corner. Your family is your corner. That's very important to me. And then I'm the pastor of St. Stephen Baptist Church. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm also the president of one of the oldest private Black colleges in America, Simmons College of Kentucky. I trace my origin to Simmons, literally, because my maternal grandparents met on the campus back in the 1920s. As a result of their marriage, my mother was born. My mother passed when I was relatively young. And our family moved from the Black community, like the Jeffersons, to an all-white community, an all-white school, and I went down. I was just being myself, and I was made fun of, just being who I was. When I did different, they defined that as being deficient. Just being who I was. I just could not connect with the culture. I just shut down. I went back to church, to the black church. And this man named Charles Mims took me in and poured into me. But he's the one that rescued me from self-loathing. And when I went to church, those older people in that church and my pastor made me feel smart, made me believe. That's why we loved our church. They affirmed me. You know what's wrong with our kids today? Where do they go to get affirmed? I mentioned my grandfather, B.J. Miller Sr. He was my first model for preaching. I cannot remember a time in my life that I did not want to be a preacher. And that was because he was my model. It was because of his intellect and piety. Most people knew Simmons only as a Bible college, when it was a full-fledged university. So I knew about Simmons, August history, because my grandfather, he graduated there with a degree in mathematics and then went on and became the first black to graduate at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. So my grandfather integrated Southern Seminary. He was a brilliant scholar, taught New Testament and Greek at Simmons for many years. So when I became president, my vision was to introduce Simmons to its unknown self, which is what preaching should always do. Sometimes the goal of preaching should not be to give people new information, but just to help them feel confident in what they already know is true. Giving them the power to pursue what they already know is right, or to introduce them to their undiscovered selves. And that was because he was my model. And I also try to make my preaching very targeted and contextual to black needs, to the black experience, and to the black situation. Whites do it in the culture. They do it by default. I intentionally do it. I love narrative preaching. The whole element of surprise is critically important, I think, in preaching, especially being empathetic with the traditional villains.
Just like old Dwight Sweeney. Old Dwight makes me sick, because we threw away some tables about 20 years ago. Throw them in the dumpster. Throw them in the dumpster. Couldn't you do anything with them? About an hour or so later, here comes Dwight, going in the dumpster, looking at the tables that we didn't see anything in. Took the tables, talked to the tables and said, "Table, I know you in the dumpster, but I'm a carpenter, and I specialize in taking things that other folk throw away and remaking it." And when Sweeney got through remaking that which was in the dumpster, when it was time for us to have the church anniversary, guess what Sweeney was doing? He was selling to us tables that we threw away.
And then Mac King Carter, we were very, very, very close. I loved F.G. Sampson because of his style. I loved Bill Jones because of his sanctified arrogance. And that sanctified arrogance, always when I was around him, I loved it because that's what black people need. You know, that kind of attitude. And the objective of the message was never about making yourself look good, but it's almost like you just said something about my mama.
Listen to me. If you're gonna be fruitful, you gotta fight for fruitfulness. Nothing comes easy. It is a struggle. I'm a pastor of a church, and it's in the poorest neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been there for almost 40 years. I'm entering my 40th year next month. And when I went there in 1979, we didn't have any land. We're in the poor neighborhood. All we had was liquor stores and nightclubs all around us. But I said, I'm going to fight to produce some fruit. And we planted our mailbox in concrete. And we turned around and purchased every piece of land we could buy and stayed there. And when it got tough, we stayed there, amen, because we wanted to produce some fruit. And if you come to our campus today, we've got 3 campuses in 2 states, in 3 counties. We've got in the hood, over 30 acres of land, football fields, baseball diamonds. We've got family life centers right there in the hood. The liquor stores, we bought them all. They are gone. God gave us the land of the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Shiites, and the Budlites. Because if you're going to have something, you got to be willing to fight for it. Can I preach like I feel? Hey, if you're going to be the president of an HBCU, with no money, we brought Simmons back from nothing. We had no money. I did not take a salary for 13 years. I just trusted in the Lord. Can I preach like I feel? And the white schools try to shut us down. But I declare that no weapon formed against us shall be able to prosper. And guess what? Now that school, your school, is one of the fastest growing HBCUs in America, but it has not been easy. That's why you ought to quit hating on fig trees. When you see fruit, quit hating. You see the glory. You don't know the story.
I remember when I first became the president of Simmons, someone asked, why would you want to become the president of a simple Bible college? Well, that's because they had limited vision of who Simmons was and what Simmons could become. I didn't see an unaccredited Bible college in a poor, disinvested community. What I saw was a historical black college and university. I saw the potential for amazing renaissance. And the reason why was because Simmons, which was established in 1879, at one time was one of the premier private black colleges in the United States. But it had fallen upon some very tragic times. But one advantage Simmons always had was that Simmons never closed. Simmons played its violin with just one bowstring, but we were still playing music. And I knew that if we could restring that bow, not only could we play music, but we could produce a symphony.
By 2005, Pastor Cosby had served St. Stephen Church for more than 25 years. On January 15th, 2005, Reverend Dr. Kevin W. Cosby was appointed the 13th president of Simmons College of Kentucky.
So I left Lexington and drove in to St. Stephen, and they told me that he was in his office. So I made my way to the office, and when I entered the office, I simply said to him, "Congratulations, Mr. President."
Wow.
He knew exactly what I was talking about. So he was sort of stunned. And then he said to me, would you tell my wife? I knew she was in the building.
Yeah.
So we visited for a minute or two, and then she came in. And when she came in, knowing that she had been somewhat reluctant about this whole adventure, when I went to her, I just simply said, good evening, Mrs. President.
And what was her response?
She was stunned. And then she turned to him and embraced him. I know I did not envision what Simmons has become. And I would almost want to take a guess that he did not envision what it could become upon his election. And I would say that Reverend Cosby's leadership in these 42 years has been groundbreaking, record-breaking, mountain-moving, and certainly an inspiration to many, many, many.
What motivated me to invest my mind, my time, my energy, and my resources in Simmons College was because I knew that Simmons was pregnant with potential. And the reason Simmons was pregnant with potential was because of the historicity of Simmons. I knew that Simmons had the potential to become an accredited institution, and if accredited, it could become a historical Black college and university. And with a lot of help and a lot of diligence and a lot of hard work and a lot of creative imagination, and sometimes life puts you in a situation where you have to utilize that.
This is a historic event. Future generations in the entire city will see this.
In August of 1865, a monumental meeting occurred that would forever change higher learning in the state of Kentucky. And in January of 2016, it happened again.
And the name of the program is called Simmons is Me.
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 Simmons is me, yes.
Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, observed that every school was filled because the freed people wanted books. I quote her. She said they wanted books more than bread.
What I was reminded of today was the richness of our history, our Louisville, Kentucky history, and our national history.
I loved it because it's history in the making. I loved it because I want to be a part of something that will go down in history.
I'm just excited to be a part of that history, to have an opportunity to sustain that history and make sure it continues.
We as a people are leaving a legacy here.
It was a great opportunity to be present in such a historical moment.
I enjoyed hearing our history, things that I really had never heard before, and about Simmons especially.
All the history that is associated with Simmons College of Kentucky that I believe our city and citizens don't know about. And I think that aspect really is what hooks you into, being part of Simmons, and Simmons is me.
Du Bois said that if Black institutions are going to be self-directed, then in order to be self-governed and self-directed, they must be self-supported.
We are capable of helping ourselves. We don't have to wait for big corporations to move us forward. We are perfectly capable of banding together, uniting together, and getting this done. Simmons is me.
I'm just thrilled to be able to take this back not only to my church, but to the teachers I work with and show them that, the opportunity for students who have historically struggled because of the way the system is set up, we can overcome that obstacle and achieve success for not just the kids at that school, but for our community.
It was wonderful, and I think it's a very, very good program for not only our community, but for our Black colleges all over the nation.
It will serve as an inspirational, replicable model for other institutions that are in our community and beyond our community. There will be other HBCUs that are in jeopardy of closing that will look to Louisville and Simmons College and ask, how did they do it?
What I like about the program that the kids can go to school and come out with no debt, unlike other universities and colleges.
I have grandchildren, and I'm going to encourage them. I know they want to go to school. This is the place to be.
Our children just aren't achieving to the fullest of their ability, and it's going to open the door for more of them to attend college on a regular basis.
We are educating kids that's falling through the cracks. Kids are not accepted to other schools. They're able to go here, and then 2 years they can go to any school they want to go.
Does Louisville need charter schools? We can debate that all day long. What we can't debate is, does the community need to support Simmons, and does the community need Simmons? That's not debatable. This community needs Simmons.
Simmons is me.
Simmons is me.
Simmons is me.
Simmons is me.
As I continued to forge ahead with a bold and an ambitious vision for the school, and there's no way that I, as an individual or as a pastor of a church, which is a very resourceful church, would have the resources to undergird the budget needed for Simmons College. It takes multiple partners. In fact, most universities and colleges have been able to secure resources throughout decades and centuries. That has not been the case for Simmons. So we've had to have a lot of help, a lot of friends, and because of the compelling vision, people's eyes and hearts and pocketbooks were open. Hello, my name is Kevin Cosby, and welcome to this powerful informational video called Simmons is Me. Simmons College of Kentucky is one of the great institutions of our nation, a great history, and even a greater hope. And Simmons is Me will show you how you can help advance this institution and make a tremendous difference. Thank you for journeying with us on this video, Simmons is Me. And maybe what we should do is turn the me upside down and say, Simmons is we. Be blessed. I had several goals when I became the president of Simmons College almost 18 years ago. Number one, to reintroduce Simmons. And number two was to get Simmons accredited. And number three, after accreditation, because of how old Simmons is, to secure for Simmons College the historical Black college and university status. So I have been able to accomplish, with a lot of help and the grace of God, those three objectives. We've been able to reintroduce the greatness of our institution to the world.
Hello, and welcome to Simmons is Me. This DVD is designed to inform you about Simmons College of Kentucky, as well as inspire your support of America's 107th HBCU. Simmons is Me is an initiative of Simmons College of Kentucky to raise local and national awareness about the liberal arts school in order to generate grassroots financial support. Education is the passport into the future, and the future belongs to those who are preparing for it today. There are people of goodwill throughout the entire country who are disturbed about the condition of urban areas such as West Louisville. Consider these statistics. The poverty rate among whites in America is 9%. The poverty rate among blacks in America is 27%. The poverty rate among blacks in Louisville is 32%. Louisville ranked by ABC News in 2015 as the 11th poorest city in America, driven by economic challenges in West Louisville. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "If you're behind in a race, you must run faster or stay permanently behind, and society must give people the tools to catch up." That's why closing the educational achievement gap is the civil rights issue of our day. We at Simmons College of Kentucky realize that education is the means and manner of a person's elevation. This, along with a strong curriculum to prepare our students, is our primary responsibility so that we can rise above the issues that plague our community.
Thanks for joining us tonight at 6:30. I'm Lindsay Allen.
And I'm Tamara Evans, giving $5 to help kids go to college and graduate debt-free.
WDRB's Stefan Johnson tells us how Simmons College of Kentucky says the idea can work. Stefan.
It is called the Simmons is Me campaign and is designed to sustain the school for years to come. And it all starts with the $5 pledge.
It feels completely great.
Clenisha Coleman is a junior at Simmons College of Kentucky, and you could say she's getting the best kind of education, a free one.
Because once I graduate, I can go ahead and get into my profession and not have to worry about paying back any money.
Coleman is one of hundreds, perhaps even thousands of students will benefit from the school's newest campaign.
The name of the campaign is Simmons is Me.
Dr. Kevin Cosby is president of Simmons and says the Simmons is Me campaign was created to strengthen and sustain the historic college for years to come.
And it's a movement to mobilize about 10,000 people across the country to make a weekly micro gift of $5 in order to sustain Simmons.
The goal of the campaign is to use the $5 weekly pledges to provide tuition for students to attend the historically black liberal arts college.
And our goal is for everyone throughout this city and nation to embrace in their heart, you know what? Simmons is me.
But that $5 pledge is for the school.
92-year-old Everly Ashby is one of the first to embrace the campaign.
And I will do it continuously till the Lord calls me home.
She approached me and she said, "Kevin, I will give $5 to the Simmons is Me campaign for the rest of my life."
President Cosby says the cost of a cup of coffee means no student loans or deep debt after graduation.
We do not want to offer student loans because we do not want our students to fall into the trap of student loan debt.
It is why Clenisha Coleman will graduate debt-free and eventually pay it forward by joining the Simmons is Me campaign.
I've already told myself that.
Here's some information about historic black colleges and universities and why Simmons College is so important. HBCUs educate a disproportionately high number of African American students in comparison to predominantly white colleges and universities. While being only 3% of the colleges and universities in America, HBCUs graduate almost 30% of all black college graduates. HBCUs are not segregated institutions. African Americans attend HBCUs not for segregation but for celebration. HBCUs affirm black culture, black heritage, and black capacity. HBCUs provide aspiring students of all races, genders, and backgrounds personalized attention as they navigate the complexities of college culture and classroom discipline. Simmons College of Kentucky has articulation agreements with other major universities in the state, including the University of Louisville and Kentucky State University, and is now poised to train the most gifted of minds as well as patiently nurture late bloomers. Simmons College of Kentucky boasts an open-door enrollment process, which makes college more accessible for everyone.
I couldn't be more grateful to be here. Any other school that I attempted to attend would not let me in because of my previous issues, but here Simmons gave me a second chance.
One of the lowest and affordable four-year tuitions in America, and a small campus size to cultivate academic and cultural values.
And as I forged ahead in leadership with the bold vision for Simmons, it seemed that at every juncture, there were resources or provision to help fuel the vision that I had for the school. I believe that when you are attempting to do something great, that people with vision will come alongside you and help to resource you.
When then, newly appointed Simmons president, accompanied by local businessman Charlie Johnson, visited David Jones Sr., Dr. Kevin Cosby informed him of his new appointment and praised the school as a shining example poised to meet the needs of students, kids from Louisville's West End. Dr. Cosby went on sharing his vision and then presented a request to Jones that would require a measure of hope and faith. Although the visit did not make international headlines, in retrospect, it was one of the most important decisions ever made with respect to impacting African American achievement in Kentucky. The meeting ended with two resolutions. One of Dr. Cosby moving the school from its present status to become a fully accredited institution of higher learning with a full liberal arts degree program, and also one of David Jones Sr., a donation for $1 million. And in doing so, he did more than just write a check. He wrote history. The 13th president of Simmons College of Kentucky kept his promise. And under his visionary direction, Simmons College of Kentucky was granted accreditation by the Association of Biblical Higher Education in 2014. And in 2015, it was officially designated as the nation's 107th HBCU. The visionary gesture of Jones Sr. represents a prime opportunity to focus on what we know about philanthropic inclusion and to move the discussion beyond ideological and partisan debates. This is rather crucial, given the data of two categories, demographics and dollars, located in one of the nation's most economically impoverished neighborhoods. The presence of Simmons will be an economic lift to the entire community. Historically, HBCUs have provided a stable and nurturing environment for those most at risk of not entering or completing college. And nearly half of the enrollment at Simmons College are first-generation college students. For more than 150 years, HBCUs have been providing diverse learning environments, from students to faculty to administration, ensuring every student's pathway to success. In HBCU tuition rates average almost 30% less than comparable institutions. Recognized in 2019 as the most affordable HBCU in the nation, Simmons has become the envy of neighboring cities not fortunate to have such a gem. And while students across America have accumulated $1.3 trillion in college loans, Simmons students graduate with no student debt, which could dramatically narrow the racial wealth gap. Given all this data, there is no better time for an honest discussion about philanthropic inclusion. While HBCUs are in need of corporate donors, financial gifts to schools like Simmons is not charity. It's an investment. In 2005, David Jones Sr. gave in faith and hope. In 2020, your decision doesn't take either. Comparably, there is no greater return on investment like an investment at Simmons College. A commitment accompanied by a list of guarantees. Just to mention a few, Simmons has one of the lower student-teacher ratios in the state, which virtually guarantees that students will get the attention and support they need to reach their highest potential. Secondly, the affordability aspect alone is attracting students from across the nation to attend Simmons College. And finally, there are guaranteed federal dollars coming to our city that will increase as our enrollment increases. Now, given their proven track record of influencing the academic success of African Americans, which directly impacts the success of the entire city, now more than ever, greater investment is needed in institutions like Simmons College of Kentucky.
We were able to reconstitute Simmons as a major player in higher education and to make Simmons the only come-up historical black college and university in the United States. When I say come up, I make a distinction between a comeback school and a come up school. A comeback school is a school that was up, declined, and then came back. A come up school, like Simmons, is a school that never experienced accreditation. Simmons was never accredited with the United States Department of Education. So we came up to accreditation, and then as a result of that, we came up to an even higher level, and that is to the status of historical Black college and university, and we're continuing to ascend to new vistas and new heights. Hello, my friends. My name is Kevin Cosby, and I'm the president of Simmons College of Kentucky, right here in Louisville. No college has made greater gains in the history of historical Black colleges and universities like our own Simmons College of Kentucky, one of the oldest private Black colleges in America. And yes, we are back. We are fully accredited, and we are the newest historical Black college and university on the block. Simmons has garnered the support and the partnership of 3 Baptist denominations, national denominations. The National Baptist Convention of America and their president, Dr. Samuel Tolbert, has partnered with Simmons, and now they are moving their headquarters from Dallas to Louisville, Kentucky. This is a 3.5 million member convention. In addition to that, the Progressive Baptist Convention, founded by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship that was founded and established by President Jimmy Carter. The leaders of these 3 conventions, the National Baptist Convention of America, the Progressive Baptist Convention, and the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, will be in our city for a special breakfast that will take place at 8:30 Saturday, June the 10th. I am asking that you would please come out to welcome the National Baptist Convention of America to Louisville. The president will be present to share with all of us what impact the NBCA will have in the city of Louisville. In addition to that, in September, just 3 months away, the National Baptist Convention of America will have their national convention here in Louisville. This is the time for the city of Louisville to embrace the challenge of national leadership. Please, pastor, please, friend, we need you. Please come out and let us receive these 3 national denominational leaders as they come to our city for a special breakfast to articulate the vision of this partnership and what it will mean to your church and what it would mean to the city of Louisville. At the conclusion of the breakfast, we will walk across the street to dedicate 3 new dorms for Simmons College that will be named in honor of Dr. Beverly Gaines, the late, great Dr. Joseph R. Sams, and Mr. Charlie Johnson. Thank you so much for all you have done to help Simmons.
They don't do it like we do it. Dun, 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 dun. But if you go to Grambling,
with the splash of Vella against Black excellence.
A recent article in Newsweek cited that Black colleges produce 70% of all Black dentists and doctors, 50% of Black engineers and public school teachers, and while HBCUs only account for 3% of the nation's colleges, they account for about 20% of the degrees awarded to African Americans. Did you know that 40% of the African American members of Congress, 50% of African American lawyers, and 80% of African American judges all graduated from an HBCU? Simmons College of Kentucky is just one of America's historically Black colleges and universities that can help you pursue and realize your dreams. Simmons College of Kentucky, creating the next generation of thinkers.
the time God used me the most, I mean, God uses us constantly, but if there's something that sticks out, when I was angry over injustice, when I was mad, and you're completely oblivious about how you may look, how you come off, whether you impress the people. It is just, there's a commercial, and I forgot what it was, in which a fighter is in the ring and he's been beat up and he's in the corner and his manager's trying to motivate him. And he said, do you remember when you were younger and somebody stole your French fries? He said, yeah, that's him. He did like this. And even though he'd been beat up, he's going out there. When you go to the pulpit with the mind, this issue is stealing black people's French fries. That's when I was at my best, and I can tell you when it was. The funeral of Muhammad Ali. All these prominent people sitting on the front row, and you've got a national and international television audience. And I'm sitting here, I'm angry because I want them to know, I don't want them co-opting Muhammad Ali. He benefits all people, but he first and foremost belongs and was born out of the black struggle. And what made us gravitate towards him was not his Islamic faith. It was not that. We could care less about his theology. Muhammad Ali addressed black pain, black insecurity imposed on black people. Black people were hungering, especially black men, because the Christian faith, whiteianity, did not address black needs. Muhammad Ali did. So I went to that platform with a passion to get that message across. And I believe God used me quite effectively.
Things our city is known for: horse racing, bluegrass, and bourbon. All of these things pale in comparison to the greatest of all time.
I am the greatest.
When the champ passed in 2016, Louisville teamed up with the Ali family to ensure that the Prince of Parkland neighborhood had a send-off fitting for a king.
And that's what he wanted. You know, Crystal, from the very beginning, Muhammad wanted it to be a teaching experience, sort of a reflection of his life, of bringing people together, bridging the divide, showing that people from all walks of life could come together, and he would be sort of that uniting force, that glue that sort of held them.
Whether you were high yellow or boot black, Muhammad Ali loved you.
Setting the tone and kicking off the speakers, Reverend Dr. Kevin W. Cosby.
I looked in the dictionary for the word fidelity, and it had two words: Lonnie Ali.
Who else would we have chosen? Firmly planted in that community where Muhammad grew up. He was the one.
Now, please don't mishear me. I am not saying that Muhammad Ali is the property of black people. He is the property of all people.
I am so glad Dr. Cosby was the first speaker. I mean, because his message set the tone for the rest of that service.
But while he is the property of all people, let us never forget that he is the product of black people in their struggle to be free.
Exactly the message Muhammad would have wanted.
You will never be able to appreciate a sense of somebodyness until you understand the 350 years of nobodyness.
Could you point out any highlights from his message that just really resonated with you?
I'll try. Not get emotional.
Yeah.
This happens on occasion, but He sort of took it from the beginning, with Martin Luther King.
Dr. King paused and said, the greatest and the most profound effect that the civil rights struggle had was that it infused in the Negro something that the Negro needed all along.
Needing to understand that they are somebody, they matter. And then he sort of took it through history.
But something happened to the Depression generation and the World War II generation of African Americans. Jackie Robinson picked up his bat.
The accomplishments of Black people.
Joe Louis dismantled.
How they overcame discrimination and racism and barriers that were thrown in their way just because of the color of their skin.
And then
he said, but then there came this guy out of Louisville, Kentucky, from the West End.
The silver-tongued poet who took the ethos of somebodyness to unheard of heights.
It was so impactful what he said. He touched me in that he understood where Muhammad came from, where he went, and everything in between.
Before James Brown said, I'm black and I'm proud, Muhammad Ali said, I'm black and I'm pretty.
Here in the United States, we have had a stirring of the Negro population. It emphasizes our national problem of gambling and prostitution and drug using. Negroes, impoverished and mistreated, have sought remedy. They have caused problems of housing and of crime. It spells the damnation of youth and death of children. On the other hand, the Negroes who have grown in intelligence and awareness of their handicaps have begun to fight back by the use of the boycott and the passive resistance. The extraordinary uprising of the students all over the South and beginning in the North shows an awareness of our situation which is most encouraging.
That double consciousness that Du Bois talks about plagues the psyche of many Black kids. So the integration into white space caused them to be reoriented away from Blackness. If you've got people educating our kids who believe they must be saved from their Blackness, then that's the equivalent of trying to save a fish in water. One of my missions at Simmons was to unapologetically awaken Black people from the cultural and historic amnesia. So this is what a Black institution is. Black institution reflects Black culture. So I know I'm in Black space because of the culture.
They don't do it like we do it. And that's okay the way they do it, but you shouldn't be ashamed of the way you do it. So when they have their bands, it's dun 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 dun. But if you go to Grambling, it's like dun 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 dun.
We worship different, we sing different, we dance different, we dress different, we act different, and we are not going to apologize. There was a university several years ago, the Grand Marshal of the graduation reprimanded Black graduates as they were walking across the stage, dancing. They later apologized. When you graduate from Simmons, which is 99% Black, if you don't dance, then we have failed as a school. We want you to be who you are.
Or maybe this is your day to shake up the world. So Simmons Nation, rise up. Simmons Nation, rise up. One more time for the Holy Ghost. Simmons Nation, rise up. Now answer this question for me. Can you dig it?
In fact, when I say a Black institution, I'm thinking of 3 C words. Black institutions are institutions that reflect Black culture. C word number 2, they are controlled by black people. Hello, this is Kevin Cosby, president of Simmons College of Kentucky. Perhaps you remember the Broadway musical called West Side Story about 2 rival gangs and 2 people from these 2 rival gangs who fell in love with each other. Their dilemma was that the male was not welcomed in the Puerto Rican community and the female was not welcomed in the Polish community. And so they sung a song, which was the most moving part of the musical. There's a place for us. Somewhere there's a place for us. And everyone is looking for a place where they can be accepted, affirmed, and celebrated. And that's why black space is so important. So often when we think of integration, we think of the disintegration of black space, and there's no need for black space. But just like there's a need for Asian space and Korean space and Chinese space and Anglo space, there is a need for black space. And you don't have black space because of segregation. The purpose of black space is celebration, where black people can come and be affirmed, where black people don't have to worry about, am I using colloquialisms and expressions that perhaps may be stigmatized in perhaps majority white space. And believe it or not, there are many black kids who have that type of anxiety, wondering, well, because I'm not necessarily fitting into the culture of the dominant community, that perhaps I'm being perceived as less than. When black kids come into black space, they don't have to worry about any anxiety. They can truly be themselves, and they can sing the old song of Sly and the Family Stone, thank you for letting me be myself again. So here's a shout out to black space. And not only is it good space for black people, but guess what? Those of you who are of another ethnic group who've never been in black space, don't believe the stereotypes. Come on down. Check out what Simmons College is doing. Come in black space. I think you'll love it. C word number 3, they're institutions that reflect black concerns. Imagine 2 individuals who want to get in shape, and they decide we're going to stay in this compound working out for 6 weeks, then we'll look at the results. Well, there are 2 compounds, or compound A, one's called compound B. And compound A has a lot of advantages. Tennis courts, and swimming pools, fitness instructors, motivational speakers, plus bringing him fresh food all the time. One guy goes to compound A, and he has all of the essential things necessary to assist him in his fitness goals. And after the 6 weeks is up, he has lost 30 pounds and he looks good. Well, the man in compound B has the total opposite of what's in compound A. He doesn't have all these amenities. And not only did he not lose weight, but he picked up 10 pounds. Well, the man in compound A looks at the man in compound B and says, you know what? You didn't work hard enough. You didn't discipline yourself. I worked hard to work the program and get in shape. Powerful parable written by sociologist Michael Emerson is to help understand what systemic advantage is. What the man in compound A doesn't realize, it's not simply that one person is exerting more individual effort and the other person is not. It's simply that one person is exerting individual effort surrounded by opportunities. And if we're really concerned about justice, then we're not concerned simply about equality, but equity. Then we must not only challenge people on an individual level, but we must also surround people with all of the tools they need and all the opportunities that they may need in order to be successful. Mm-hmm. That's a good word. Mm-hmm. We must become generational neighbors. Martin Luther King Jr. was a generational neighbor in the last sermon. He said, I may not get there with you, my generation, but watch my generational neighborliness. But we as a people, the next generation, will make it to the promised land. That's what it means to be a generational neighbor. With David has in his mind this dream of building God's temple. All the battles have been fought. David brings in Nathan and says, I want to build God a house of worship and I'll pay for it. And Nathan is happy. But the next day he goes to David and says, you are the king of war. You're not the king of worship. You got blood on your hands. Each generation has its own battles. The man who fought the war is not going to build the house of peace. You know what David does? He says, I will begin to collect all of the resources and material that is needed. It was my vision. I won't get to see it. But in my generation, I will be a good neighbor to Solomon. And the question is, are we going to be more like David?
For no reason at all, just stop me.
Ask us what
we were up to.
Next week, the police stop that concerned an entire city.
But why was we stopped?
Is racial bias on the LMPD an issue that needs to be revisited?
With your hand, please.
Exclusively.
Did you know that the word alma mater comes from the Latin meaning nurturing mother? One of our primary objectives at Simmons College of Kentucky is to nurture late bloomers. So it doesn't matter if you struggle through high school just to graduate, or even if you earn your GED. We don't look at a student's past, we look at their potential. Simmons College of Kentucky, creating the next generation of thinkers.
The National Baptist Convention of our second largest black organization in the world moved their headquarters to Louisville. So Dr. Tolbert, this week he comes with a check. That's me and Dr. Tolbert, and he did that so that we could buy the original Central High School, which means that in black people's hands, you got the original buildings that our slave foreparents built, and thank God for some of the good loving foundations that have been right there with us. So you got to see it. 4th Street headquarters. This is you wouldn't believe it when you go in it. This is Central High School. Right next to it are the original buildings that were built by slaves. On the names of the buildings are slave names. And black folk got it back. Ain't no school in history ever been able to do something like this, baby. And some of the people from Central, when the news got out that black folk got the building back, some of the alumni at Central said, you know, next year's our 150th anniversary. Do you think we can party? I said, we're going to party like it's 1999. We're going to party.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for our headliner.
With your bad self. Say it loud. I'm breaking up proud. Say it loud. I'm breaking up proud. Some people say we got a lot of malice. Some say a lot of nerve. I say we won't quit moving till we get what we deserve. We've been abused. We've been scorned. We've been treated bad, talked about, sure as you born. And just as sure as it takes 2 eyes to make a pair, brother, we won't quit until we get our share. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud.
When many people think of black history, they think of only a few things, that black people were slaves, and that 2, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and 3, Martin Luther King Jr. Helped give blacks civil rights, and then finally Barack Obama was president. So it's just 4 points of black history. But from 1619, when the White Lion first landed in Jamestown, Virginia in August of 1619, and when Angela from Angola disembarked, and the first Africans came as enslaved people. And what catapulted the wealth of this country was the free labor of black Americans. So how do we tell that story?
Simmons College of Kentucky presents the Angela Project 2017, named after the first African slave to step foot on American soil. Based on the work of the Truth and Reconciliation panels in South Africa that helped end apartheid, our task is to change the trajectory of race relations in America and public policy towards social justice. Churches first taught the nation how to divide over slavery. Now, be a part of churches across the nation teaching the nation to unite. 4 national organizations with over 6 million constituents coming together to tackle the marvelous challenge of true racial harmony and justice. Simmons College of Kentucky, America's 107th HBCU, in conjunction with the National Baptist Convention of America International, the Progressive National Baptist Convention, and the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship, will come together for this year's focus of addressing public policy and the educational crisis in Black America. Make plans now to be a part of the Angela Project 2017, featuring writer and founder of Breaking Brown, Yvette Carnell, radio host and professor at Morgan State University, Dr. Jared Ball, attorney and Emmy-nominated film producer Antonio Moore, author and anti-racism activist Tim Wise, and plenary speaker, President Emeritus of Morehouse College, Dr. Robert Franklin. Sponsored by Simmons College of Kentucky.
The goal is to help raise awareness of the impact that slavery had upon Black Americans and how that the United States has a special responsibility to rectify the injustices.
Now let's have a very honest conversation. I watched Aretha Franklin's funeral and I saw Reverend Jasper Williams blame and talk about what we can do as individuals. And I juxtaposed that to Dr. Cosby's eulogy, Muhammad Ali. And when I talk about the kind of leadership that we need to see, we need more Dr. Cosby. We need more people and more leaders who understand you do not fix a systemic and intentional failure with individual agency.
You cannot fix what you will not face, quoting James Baldwin. So we hope to fix it, to be courageous in our articulation of what took place. So courageous speech, but also courageous ears. And what makes this so powerful is the courageous ears of whites who do not waffle under truth.
And keep in mind, this system of redlining was not done in the public eye. This was done by the federal government and then handed over to private banks. So it was actually a federal policy done for private banks, done for the financial sector. Everything that redlining was is simply became systematic in what we call today real estate market. If you go to college and take a real estate market analysis class, you are trained how to carry this out.
Now, the ultimate objective is that by 2019, when we actually mark the 400th anniversary, that we can perhaps create a new trajectory for race that we won't see in our lifetime healed. But maybe we can start a new trajectory.
When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Pressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Way down in Egypt's land. Way down. Go down, way down in Egypt's land. Hello, Pharaoh, to let my people go.
Simmons College, in collaboration with the Angela Project, presents 40 Days of Prayer.
Beginning July the 12th and concluding August the 20th, Christians and justice-loving people from around the world will pause to commemorate 400 years of slavery, so we might reflect on where we have been and project a new course for race relations in America.
On August 20th, at the culmination of the 40 Days of Prayer, the ceremony book will be used in services held across this nation. 40 days, 400 years.
There's a myth that many people have that there is not much talent and capacity in black neighborhoods. That is a myth. The fact of the matter is there is untapped potential in black neighborhoods like there is untapped potential in all neighborhoods. The reason some people don't see the potential in our neighborhood is because they're not looking for it. Where Simmons is, where St. Stephen Church is a highly segregated, concentrated poverty area. And people are making the bridge into our community because of what we have to offer that is of substance, especially in terms of intellectual substance. If you think about the great thought leaders and those who've shaped American history from the black community, it is people who've been trained, for the most part, at HBCUs. Not only was Kamala Harris a graduate of Howard University and HBCU, and so many other prominent black legislators and judges and physicians and a who's who of who is who in black America graduated from HBCUs. Never forget that HBCUs are just 3% of the colleges and universities in America, but they graduate about 25% of all blacks with a college degree, 50% of all black school teachers, and about 75% of all black doctors. Look at what HBCUs can do, because finally, a university is always judged by the product that it produces, and HBCUs historically have always produced outstanding leaders for the nation and the world. We have a forum every month called the West Louisville Forum. West Louisville is where the concentration of black people live. And every month we have a forum in which people from all over the city come and pack it out. It gives us the autonomy to tell our story, to select what are the stories that need to be told.
Is the Jefferson County public school system failing African American students? Are black children falling through the cracks in Louisville public schools? Let's look at the data. As reported in Metro Council District 6, only 21% of African American fourth graders are reading at grade level. In District 4, only 19%. Civil rights attorney Ted Gordon has reported that only 7% of all graduating black students in JCPS are college ready. Who is responsible? Who has the answers? Simmons College of Kentucky presents JCPS, Just Caucasian Pupils Succeed? The crisis of black underachievement in Jefferson County Public Schools. The West Louisville Forum, Solutions for Urban America.
This year, the Louisville Urban League released its first ever State of Black Louisville report. The collection of essays and data constructs an honest glimpse into the harsh realities of how African Americans in Louisville are doing with respect to health, housing, jobs, education, and justice.
Put your hands, please. For no reason at all, just stop me.
Ask us what we were
up to.
The police stop that concerned an entire city.
But why was we stopped?
Is racial bias on the LMPD an issue that needs to be revisited?
Listen to how this textbook describes slavery. The master often had a barbecue or picnic for his slaves. Then they had a great frolic. Then while working in cotton fields, they sang songs. The beat of the music and the richness of their voices made work seem light. So how has this type of thinking become so deeply rooted in Southern memory? Blame the United Daughters of the Confederacy, founded in 1894 to preserve Confederate culture for generations to come. They published a measuring rod for textbooks that urged libraries and schools to reject any books which did not accord full justice to the South.
My parents are from Nigeria. Relatives, grandparents, everybody. And it would be a shame for me to try and, oh, you know what? We had it really bad 400 years ago. No, we did not. Me being here with my passport is great, but it's only because other people died to make that possible.
There are some black people who, if you call them African American, they are insulted. For me, I'm black. You don't have to get so technical. You're not stepping on toes if you don't say African American.
There's a little murmuring through the audience.
Black is not a negative word.
You can trace your lineage back further than a lot of white people who came over during Ellis Island and are immigrants. So why should you say African American and separate yourself from a country that you seem to have more ownership than the people that are keeping you from it?
Black American is a cultural thing. If your ancestry ain't been through what the hell our people been through, Barack Obama folks ain't been through what our people went through. Michelle, that's a sister.
Hello, Sally Ann. Hello, Dana. Hello. And we all just made you a darling. Here it is. This is the very nicest present I got. Thank you ever so much. Come now, dear. I'll see you later. And I'll save you some cake. We'll be waiting.
Simmons College of Kentucky presents the West Louisville Forum, Solutions for Urban America. Spend your lunch hour at the West Louisville Forum where you'll learn more about the topic of racism versus favoritism and discrimination versus privilege. Come hear America's leading sociologist as she addresses the issue of opportunity hoarding. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
And I'll save you some cake.
Everything that you believe about being African American, about being a descendant of a slave in this country, everything is a lie. Everything that you think you know is a lie, and it was intentional.
The only way that the education works to close the racial wealth gap is with a surrounding a support system to make sure that education can be plugged into an outlet.
And part of the reason that we don't understand that we don't have any real money is because the people with money lie.
Simmons College of Kentucky presents State of the Race, Whiteout, the erasing of Black Louisville from power, privilege, and participation. In his 1967 speech, Martin Luther King Jr. identified the importance of self-interest for effective coalitions. A true alliance is based upon some self-interest of each component group and a common interest into which they merge. Join us for the June edition of the West Louisville Forum as we dissect the importance of Black self-interest and address the politics of Black advocacy.
We owe Black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists or gays who want to get married. That's what civil rights has become. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow law. No, I think civil rights are for Blacks.
You keep on pushing our buttons for the insurrection here, because we ain't playing your garbage. We ain't playing your mess. My Bible says that the church of the living God is an institution that the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And the Bible says that we'll take it by force. That's what the Bible says.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to bring attention to a dangerous ideology threatening our democracy.
That believes the American nation is defined by being Christian, and the government should keep it that way.
This is an explicitly Christian movement because this is an explicitly Christian country.
But which Christianity are Christian nationalists actually talking about?
Christianity is code word for people like us. True Americans are white, native-born, and conservative.
Christian nationalism operates a lot like racism. It's so embedded in the culture of the United States.
White supremacy and Christian nationalism
toxic marriage that is dividing America along religious and racial lines.
The most dedicated Christian nationalists in America a century ago were the members of the Ku Klux Klan.
I tell you, Leviticus 19:18, love thy neighbor. It says, love thy neighbor of thy people. My people are white.
So what do Christian nationalists really stand for?
Christian and Christian nationalism is not about religion, it's about identity and power.
We are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and God alone.
A vocal and influential group of people who are now becoming more radicalized and militant.
I'm to the place right now. If you vote Democrat, I don't even want you around this church. You can get out. I don't care how mad that makes you. You get pissed off as you want to. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation.
Let me tell you why telling our story, especially our historical narrative, is critically important, because it is by the study of history that we learn the lessons of history. History teaches us. Secondly, we need to know our history because history inspires us. We learn the lessons, we get inspired. You know, one of the great tragedies of any kid's education is not to be exposed to giants that are right here in the community. And perhaps one of the great autobiographies that was written by a former slave who was a hero during the Civil War was the autobiography of Elijah P. Morris. He became the first president of Simmons to show you how selfless he was and how he was only driven by the desire to have a great school. He resigned the office of president in order to bring in the giftedness and intelligence of William J. Simmons. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, one of the most celebrated bishops in the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, writes of Dr. Simmons' oratory skills. But that was the era of oratory.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
William J. Simmons, in his book, Men of Mark, is probably the most prominent profile and sketches on former slaves who achieved excellence after slavery that has ever been written. But his first sketch was the sketch of Frederick Douglass.
For the first time in my life, and I suppose the first time in any colored man's life, I attended the reception of President Lincoln.
The most traveled man of the 19th century. Nobody traveled more than Frederick Douglass.
I could not have been more than 10 feet from him when Mr. Lincoln saw me. His countenance lighted up, and he said in a voice which was heard all around, "Here comes my friend Douglass." As I approached him, he reached out his hand and gave me a cordial shake.
Douglas, I saw you in the crowd today listening to my inaugural address. There's no man's opinion that I value more than yours. What do you think of it?
Mr. Lincoln, it was a sacred effort.
The great Frederick Douglass, who in my opinion is probably one of the greatest leaders of the 19th century, was a close colleague of William J. Simmons. And this type of history was here in Louisville all along, but our community did not know. And that is why Black institutions are so vitally important, because Black institutions help keep the story of the Black experience in this country alive. You cannot read the story of our namesake as an institution, William J. Simmons, and how he emerged from slavery to become the premier Black Baptist educator in the entire United States at the close of the 19th century. And most people don't know who William J. Simmons is. But William J. Simmons, according to Gary Dorian, probably the preeminent ethicist at Union Theological Seminary, William J. Simmons, who was the president of Simmons College, is basically the founder of the National Baptist Convention. So anyone who wants to know anything about preachers in the 19th century, it's William J. Simmons. Here is a man out of slavery could write a 900-page book, and he didn't have all the tools that we have in writing books. And if he could do that out of slavery, then what is my excuse today? I'd be well said, if it were not for William J. Simmons, I would not have become a journalist. He gave her her first job. Gary Dorian called him one of the preeminent intellectuals of the day, but he died young. So we learn history to be inspired by its achievements and its accomplishments, and finally, we learn history in order to correct its malfeasance. The reason things are the way they are today is because of the way things were organized and structured yesterday. If you want to understand, for example, race relations in the present, well, it has its roots in race relations in the past. So we learn what happened so that we will have the courage to fix it.
In 1967 and 2020 are very similar.
I am for law and order.
I am the law and order candidate.
Back then it was Black Power. Today it's Black Lives Matters.
However troubled they may be, looting and arson have nothing to do with civil rights.
But what we are now seeing on the streets of our cities has nothing to do with justice.
There is patience that people had with their struggle 52 years ago.
Well, in my opinion, it just left from frustration, you know.
And people will not be that patient today.
So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
President Lyndon Johnson appointed an 11-member advisory commission on civil disorders aimed to identify the root causes.
1967, riots broke out in all of the major cities in America, including here in Louisville, Kentucky. And these riots had a devastating effect. They were called riots, but they were really rebellions against systemic and structural injustice.
The Kerner Report makes clear that the civil unrest in 1967, mirroring that in 2020, is not based on the idea of overthrowing the American government. This is a statement that people want to participate more fully in American democracy.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
The Kerner Report, the only study in American history formed by the government which established the reality of systemic racism.
They clearly said in this report, white America created this situation. And guess what? White America is maintaining.
The basic conclusion of the Kerner Commission report was that our nation is moving toward two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal.
One of the tragedies of the 20th century was that President Johnson did not act on the recommendations that were made in the report.
And here we are, 52 years later, and what do we see?
The killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, David McAtee have led people in more than 2,000 American cities to take to the streets in justifiable protest.
The best time for Kerner Commission 2 would have been in 1968. The second best time for Kerner Commission 2 is today.
Simmons College of Kentucky has recently announced the formation of the Kerner Commission 2.0, not to duplicate the work of the original, but to pick up the mantle and begin the work that was laid out. And on today, the 53rd anniversary, I'm offering my support to the work of the Kerner Commission 2.0.
This initiative is going to have 4 targets. The first is to educate the community about Black issues. When people from outside of the community see problems taking place within the community, or even situations that they believe are problems, they come in with what we call a deficit-based approach to solving those problems. And that deficit-based approach, it takes for granted that the community's broken. It takes for granted that the community has nothing to offer.
That is not true. Scattered throughout West Louisville are indigenous, community-based institutions that are doing great things. The reason why the community is still strong is because of these institutions.
Let's look at what we have in the community already. And if we have something that's working, then let's build on it. Let's support it. No one knows a community and the needs of a community like the people that live in that community.
The commission will help the larger community understand what is there in West Louisville, to raise awareness throughout the state about the assets.
Will you realize that we offer value, that this community has value? You're investing in people that have the potential to make your life better.
I get a call from the Department of Education, and in April of 2015, Simmons College became the first time HBCU granted institution in American history.
What was your reaction? So I don't want people to miss that part. What was your reaction for the first phone call?
Did you know that nearly 75% of high school seniors are accepted to their first college of choice, but only a little over half can afford to attend, according to a recent study? The outcomes prove the need for college-bound students to consider tuition costs alongside of program offerings. Simmons College of Kentucky offers 5 degree concentrations and in 2018 was named the most affordable HBCU in the nation. Simmons College of Kentucky, creating the next generation of thinkers.
Here in the United States, we have had a stirring of the Negro population. It emphasizes our national problem of gambling and prostitution and drug using. Negroes impoverished and mistreated have sought remedy. They have caused problems of housing and of crime. It spells the damnation of youth and death of children. On the other hand, the Negroes who have grown in intelligence and awareness of their handicaps have begun to fight back by the use of the boycott, of the passive resistance. The extraordinary uprising of the students all over the South and beginning in the North shows an awareness of our situation which is most encouraging.
That double consciousness that Du Bois talks about plagues the psyche of many Black kids. So the integration into white space caused them to be reoriented away from Blackness. If you've got people educating our kids who believe they must be saved from their Blackness, then that's the equivalent of trying to save a fish in water. The root cause of poor performance academically, I mean, the American University did a study that revealed that just one Black teacher in a child's life exponentially increases their chances of graduating from college. What you see in terms of kids, the way they're functioning, is they are hungry for black space. It's the crisis of the millennials. And I'm still trying to work through that.
At the end of this video, you're going to be asked a question. To really understanding the importance of this question requires a level of trust. Trust me when I say, Simmons College of Kentucky is the best resource for young black men and women that has ever happened in Louisville. Can you trust me on that? This is the story for two young black people, Daryl and Kiera, two millennials from our city. Daryl, a father of two, who hustles to find work, and for him the stress of poverty is little more than a paycheck away. He's never really considered furthering his education until now. The responsibilities of fatherhood has sparked a desire to improve the situation. And just miles away, there's Kiera.
I'm actually a sophomore at Simmons and I'll be graduating in May.
Kiera is not smarter than Daryl, but she has been exposed to and has taken advantage of opportunities that have not previously crossed Daryl's path until now. Realizing that his current position in life is a reflection of not only his hopes and desires, but also his plans and choices, he decides he wants better and reaches out to the president of a local college.
Hey, Sarah, this is Daryl. I spoke to you tonight about getting into Simmons College so that I can change my situation and better my future. I responded, "Can we talk tomorrow? I want to do everything I can to get you in school." He responded, "Yes, sir. You just tell me where to come and what time and I will be there."
Now here's the question. If you could save the life of a young person, would you? And if you're leaning towards yes, when would you do it? Now? You see, it will never be convenient to be more and do more. If it was convenient, everyone would be living and giving at a much higher level. Our challenge is to be like Daryl and understand if we want a better future, we need to make some immediate and powerful choices now.
A 25-year-old father of two was trying to apply for Simmons College the day he was shot and killed.
That, according to the president of the school, instead of us mourning a man, we should be enrolling a man in college.
Cosby says King regularly attended St. Stephen Church and would have gotten a scholarship to Simmons College.
That's the path that he was going to travel to success. Unfortunately, it's not to be because someone took his life so tragically. Reaching the millennials.
Believe me when I tell you that it's the power of now that transforms this video from one of sadness to one of celebration. As mourners gathered at the homegoing service for Daryl, President Kevin Cosby, exhibiting the spirit of now, called for all who wanted to change their life like Daryl to come forward. He announced the installation of the Daryl King Memorial Scholarship to all those willing to carry the torch for Daryl. In response to the group of young people who made the decision to changing their life and improving their future by furthering their education, Dr. Cosby said, "We've got you now."
Trying to reach the millennials is the great challenge in my generation.
He's working up that hill.
I gotta put her down. You passed the country road about a mile back.
Just a little engine trouble. Base-colored flies.
According to William Julius Wilson,
It's hard to be what you never see.
this analogy proves the importance of places like Simmons College of Kentucky and the St. Stephen Family Life Center.
We are the largest black church in the state of Kentucky with resources. And because our church was committed to group empowerment, social justice, identity formation, I used all of the resources of St. Stephen Church when I became president to take Simmons from the bottom to an emerging HBCU.
The Family Life Center operates as an activity center for Simmons College of Kentucky. Oftentimes, every inch of this facility is buzzing with activity as it provides space for band practice for the mighty Marching Falcons.
Well, there's no question that the work that's being done in the California area is anchored by the Family Life Center.
This facility also houses Simmons College of Kentucky basketball games.
We didn't have the financial means to go out and rent other facilities. And with Simmons College having the Family Life Center, it gave us an opportunity to get on our feet, start the program, and give young people an opportunity to come in and get an education, the most important thing.
Empowering people with education, opportunity, and they're taking ownership of their own lives.
It's that very principle that has garnered much respect across the city.
Simmons College of Kentucky and the St. Stephen Family Life Center is a great example of how economic development can work in a community.
It deals with every aspect of life, from education to health to just plain enjoyment.
It's an honor for me to be able to raise my child here.
A track record of helping people and helping the community.
This is home, and when we can support entities that are so invested in the community, and you look what they've done with the leadership of Reverend Cosby, this is the kind of thing that I think makes communities great.
They want you to succeed. You can feel that from them.
Students come from all over the country to be part of something that is bigger than they are.
If we can make California the hub of student life, the result will be all of California will go up. And if California goes up, well, Louisville goes up. There's a difference between just leadership and servant leadership. Dr. Samuel Tolbert is the consummate servant leader and makes everyone who is around him better. Just like Samuel in the Old Testament inaugurated a new era and sparked a revival that gave birth to the leadership of David, the great king of Israel. Our college, Simmons College of Kentucky, is flying perhaps like no other HBCU in the United States of America. And that is because of the energy, the leadership, and the vision of my brother, my friend, and your pastor, our Samuel Tolbert, has had an impact, and only God knows how many future generations will be blessed because God gave us the gift of this wonderful man. And to quote you, Dr. Tolbert, congratulations, brother, for all this carrying on for 38 years. You are absolutely amazing. Trying to reach the millennials is the great challenge in my generation.
When God wants to bless you, you don't always see it just came from out of nowhere. Are you with me? Because the best debate is not a debate. It's your actions that demonstrate. Folk will know God has done something for you because they can see a change in you. You don't have to go around with a big Bible in your hand, a cross around your neck, and every other word has to be hallelujah. You don't have to do that. But we do speak so loud. Don't get into no arguments and hit somebody in the mouth. They gotta see how God can heal. Here's the deal. Gotta see. He will. Mary had a little lamb, would have become a sheep, but joined St. Stephen and died for lack of sleep.
The great challenge.
To create a campus effect here in California, clearing all the blight out.
Though supported by the St. Stephen Church as one of its primary missions, it was important for the California community, which houses the Family Life Center, to see the possibility.
Simmons College will help the city of Louisville become the city of the future by educating the least that are among us, as well as creating the cultural and ethnic diversities that thriving cities of the future will have. According to William Julius Wilson, there are two factors which determine what a person will become. Number one, what the child sees. Secondly, what the parent sees. So to have achievers in the Black community, in poor neighborhoods, where kids get to see excellence is very important.
I am super excited to have a historic Black college right next door to me and to see the positive that's coming to this community.
Introduce them to people who look like them, who are achievers, and then get with them, support them, encourage them, build them up, keep telling them they can do it. That's called empowerment.
In the circle.
You gotta learn first.
With the splash of elegance, Black excellence.
Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless.
With the splash of elegance, Black excellence.
If you need evidence, excellence in your heritage, even despite the decadence, God's still taking precedence. The GPS that's directing where your direction is. Power has been embedded in DNA in your melanin. Don't be arrogant and neglect your inheritance. Power to move the elements.
With the splash of elegance.
Falcon, focus, addressiveness. No need to question is Black room that you stepping in. Step in the presence where God essence is resting in. Rest in the faith that He'll bless the mess that you settled in. Selling but less than the heritage that you represent. You represent historical greatness in the present tense. Black excellence, heaven sent with benevolence.
With the splash of elegance.
You represent historical greatness in the present tense. Heaven sent with benevolence.
With the splash of elegance.
You represent historical greatness in the present tense.
Black excellence.
What makes Simmons unique is, first of all, the governance.
At the time, I known Dr. Cosby, pastored his paternal grandparents, Lakin and Maudie Cosby. So I became keenly connected to the Cosby family, and always admired his ministry. He expressed an interest being a part of the Simmons family. And so in year 2007, I began as executive vice president, of course now as the chief operating officer of Simmons, as senior vice president.
With passion and boldness.
Very inspirational, his leadership, his vision for Simmons as the 13th president. And with that, my skill set to stabilize and facilitate the vision and to inspire others.
We have really transformed what we have done in the last 5 years, thanks to some of the people that we put in place now, like our John Blackwells, like our Walter Malones, like our Erica Grays, our Courtney Standard, and of course our leader, Dr. Frank Smith and Dr. Cosby. We are really, really, really making a difference now, and you can see it.
Having an HBCU in Louisville means advocating for Black people.
And as a product of an HBCU myself, and it's amazing to see myself in these students. I think they see who I am now and don't even understand what it took for me to get where I am. So I will be the catalyst to knock the door down, along with Dr. Cosby, to make sure these students get all the opportunities they need and deserve.
The General Association of Baptists in Kentucky started the vision for a college, continue to support it across the state, and we've done a great work over these years. But we know that we build on the legacy of the previous 12 presidents. We build on the 140 plus year history of the institution.
John Henrik Clark said that one generation must be willing to wear what he said dungarees, so that the next generation can wear suits. So I'm trying to wear the dungarees. I'm the dungaree generation. And I'm the dungaree generation because the generation before me wore dungarees.
This has been a journey that has shown us great leaders over these 140 plus years.
Reaching the millennials.
When you have high moments like you've given us this week, I have never been prouder of anyone as I have been proud of you this week. And I cannot put into words how much I love all of you and how I am here for you to help you achieve the excellence. Let me tell you something. About 5 years ago, we didn't have a band. We didn't have a music department. But let me tell you what I did. I had enough faith to believe that one day we would. So guess what I did? And I didn't have Julian. I didn't have Kevin. I didn't have you. I went ahead in faith and purchased 100 instruments, and there was no program yet. And I purchased those instruments believing that if I trusted God, that someone would pick up that instrument and play them. And when you were up playing them, it was like you were the answer to a prayer. So thank you so very much. The best is yet to come. All right? Let me pray with you, okay? For safe travel. Our God, we thank you for a great trip. Thank you for all that we are experiencing. Several years ago, we never thought we would be on a bus with new friends. We never saw that we would be in Dallas. But look what you have done in our lives. And just as you have done this, there's so much yet we have to look forward to because you were with us. Don't let any of us get discouraged. Help us to have each other's back. and to love one another. For we are a team. We are your school. We are Simmons Nation. A safe journey. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Love y'all so much. See you back, Simmons Nation. See y'all. Love you. We love you. Victory. Got the victory. Yeah. Hey. Victory. Victory.
I'm excited about Simmons because it is committed to being an HBCU in the tradition of the historic HBCU.
Okay.
The whole culture.
For us, HOPE is an acronym that really covers 4 areas of the student experience: housing, opportunities, pricing, and education.
So vital to what we do. It is so much a part of the mission because so many of our students don't see the opportunity, thus the hope.
We exist for the Black community unapologetically. Exist especially for Black kids who have been casualties of the public school system and do not know their genius and brilliance.
If you would have told me that I would have been on the dean's list when I was in high school, I would have laughed in your face. But now, no. Now I know there are greater things for me, and I now have the confidence that I can do the work. To get my master's degree, I'm going to change lives like Simmons changed mine.
So if we can bring these opportunities to them that help transform their lives, to see themselves at Simmons, to see themselves in the future, to see themselves studying and becoming good students, good scholars, and great agents of change, is all worth all the work that we have to do behind the scenes.
All right, my name is Khalil Chambers. I am a sophomore at Simmons College, Kentucky, and I am a cymbal player for the marching band. My first time hearing about the legacy of Simmons was actually during my freshman orientation, and President Cosby is the one that told it to us. He told us the history of the campus, how it's built, how it's looking back to slaves, and how just from then it hit me that that's very monumental that I go to an institution that was built by slaves, and that basically I'm a part of their vision, part of what they wanted to see in the future.
One of the oldest private Black colleges in America, Simmons College of Kentucky. Founded in 1879, it became at one time the only Black college in the state of Kentucky. My vision was to return Simmons to a full-fledged university.
I became president in 2005. We got accredited in 2014. Then we submitted our application to the United States Department of Education to be classified as an HBCU. And they said, who is this? There's no more HBCU. This is what an HBCU is. To be an HBCU, historic mission to Black people.
Okay.
2, you're accredited. 3, that you were in existence prior to 1964.
We are older than many Black private colleges, starting in 1879.
So when I gave them the data, and showed it,
Simmons downsized as a university in 1930, casualty of the Depression.
I get a call from the Department of Education and they said, Brother President. They'd never call you Brother President unless you're part of the HBCU.
Wow.
And in April of 2015, Simmons College became the first time HBCU granted institution in American history.
What was your reaction? So I don't want people to miss that part. What was your reaction for the first phone call?
I shouted.
Michael Eric Dyson book on pride said that the absence of pride is a sin for black people. It's not pride, but the absence of pride is the sin of black people.
Splash of fell against black excellence.
Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless.
With the splash of fell against black excellence.
Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless.
With the splash of fell against black excellence.
Heaven sent with benevolence, intelligence, and eloquence.
With the splash of fell against black excellence.
Excelling where your profession is, they call you a specialist.
With the splash of fell against black excellence.
If you need evidence, excellence in your heritage, even despite the decadence, God's still taking precedence. The GPS that's directing where your direction is. Power has been embedded in DNA in your melanin. Don't be arrogant and neglect your inheritance. Power to move the elements.
With the splash of fell against
Falcon, focus, addressiveness. No need to question is like the room that you stepping in. Step in the presence with God, essence is resting in. Rest in the faith that He'll bless the mess that you settled in. Selling for less than the heritage that you represent. You represent historical greatness in the present tense.
Black excellence.
Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless. Black excellence, do it, make it look effortless.
With the splash of fell against black excellence.